Writing advice never ends, but there are actually only 3 or 4 beginner writing mistakes that really truly matter. These mistakes cause the vast majority of beginner writer problems, and doing every single one of these is the best way to guarantee that you stay a beginner forever. So you might want to make it a priority to fix them. Mistake number 1, you are respecting writing advice way too much, that you end up using it wrong. Here are the 2 cases for this mistake. In case 1, you have no problem banging out a draft. When you go to edit and revise and write your next draft, that's when you start applying writing advice, taking out everything that people say you shouldn't do, even though for some things you're pretty sure you're an exception. At this point, you don't need random writing advice from the internet though. You need feedback on the story that you've written. You need specific suggestions on the words that you've produced, not generic rules that aren't even going to apply to everybody. By the way, beta readers are also where you'll be able to hear the little prose level tips like if your prose is too purple and could use less adjectives, or if said is truly dead in the dialogue exchanges that you've written in your work. Of course, the quality of feedback depends on the quality of the beta reader, who would ideally be someone whose taste and sensibilities you trust, and also someone who has an accurate as possible a grasp on the vision you are shooting for with your work. And I understand that finding a person like this is a really tall ask. And I'm personally very blessed and privileged to have multiple people like this in my life. It's much easier to ask just anyone or to write all by yourself and try to beta read your own work with advice from the internet. I get it. But I hope you also understand that just because something is easy to do doesn't mean it's going to be effective or get you the results that you're looking for. In case 2 of overly respecting writing advice, you think that you need to hear all the advice that there is before you start writing, and by writing I mean drafting. Maybe you have a plan or an outline that you're working and reworking every time you hear new advice, and when your plan is perfect, that's when you're going to start drafting. If you're acting like this, you are not going to make it. Imagine if you treated your life like this, researching what the perfect job and the perfect salary would be, what the right way to conduct yourself as a friend or a partner is, and how to eat and sleep and exercise before you take any single action toward your career or your relationships or your health. Your life would pass you by. You're falling for the illusion of planning. You think that planning is a good use of time because with a good plan, you will be able to execute efficiently, making up for the time that you spent planning. But in the case of writing and in life, the beginning of a project is when you know the least about the project. As you write, you'll learn more. You'll learn that you don't need this many side characters. You'll learn that your antagonist actually needs a different backstory. And you'll learn that you're trying to mix too many genres. You can't see these things until you're on the page with the prose and with the words. There are going to be problems in your writing project that you can't solve for in advance, much less anticipate from the bird's eye view of an outline. You'll only find out in the draft. And there are going to be solutions to the plot holes you'd spend days racking your brains for that you will find when you're writing your draft. Think of it like this. A rock climber will do some pre-climb planning, reading the route that they think can take them to the top of the wall. But once they're on the wall executing the plan, things don't always go how they imagine. Maybe they overestimated themselves and can't actually reach the next handhold they were planning for. Or maybe they find that they're actually just flexible enough to make a certain body position work, and the route that they wrote off while they were planning from the ground is actually possible, so the way up will be easier and faster than they thought. When you find yourself making these improvisations on the page as a writer, instead of depending on an airtight plan, the rush is crazy. It feels so good. So mistake number 1 was depending on and respecting writing advice too much, which overlaps with mistake number 2, which is spending more time researching and studying writing than literally actually writing. I would recommend you try to get these 2 activities as equal as possible, if not writing more. Because if you're watching hours and hours of writing advice, but not applying it to a writing project, that's a big mistake. And I understand that there are people who watch how-to videos for different reasons. Like if you would hypothetically want to write a novel, and right now you just want to see what's out there as a learning resource, you can do whatever you like. But if you identify as a writer, don't lie to yourself. You put that knowledge of how to write a story into your brain, but you don't have an understanding until you apply that knowledge. And the thing is, when you apply it by analyzing someone else's story, you improve your skills in editing and analysis. Only when you apply it to your own project do you improve your skills of writing. Maybe you could be an amazing editor, but you're not so comfortable and confident in your skills as a writer. Because gaining knowledge isn't the same as leveling up your skills. Gaining knowledge is necessary to increase your skills, but you also need to gain experience in writing. And experience in writing doesn't come from analyzing other people's stories. That's why you need your own writing project, even if you have no intentions to publish it or show it to anyone. Think about it like this. People who watch drawing tutorials but never put a pencil to paper never ever claim to be artists. In fact, they'll claim the opposite. They'll say, I just watch drawing tutorials, but I don't draw. I can't draw. Because they know if they picked up a pencil, they couldn't do what they critique other people doing. And people who enjoy watching and analyzing things like sports, video games, and other trades and crafts, they're also aware of this. They have a great deal of knowledge, but they know that having that knowledge isn't the same as having that skill. No other field has this delusion, but for some reason, writers are always confusing thinking and writing. But thinking isn't writing. And the reason I think writers make this mistake of denying themselves experience is because they're scared. In the same way that people might study and research skills like swimming or driving, they feel like the stakes are really high. Successfully performing this skill can be a matter of life or death. But unlike swimming and driving, the only thing in danger when you're writing is your ego and your pride. Because if you actually write, you might find out that you're wrong about how skilled you are. It's like Schrodinger's cat. Nobody can measure your writing abilities if you never show them. But how can you not feel like a fraud if you call yourself a writer but you don't even write? Which leads to mistake number 3, which is bragging about how much you don't write. And I'm talking about in real life and on the internet. Seeing and making relatable memes about how hard writing is or how your word count hasn't gone up in months can be very comforting. And it's nice to know that people have similar experiences to you and you're not a freak weirdo who's doing something wrong. But the thing is, when you get that validation, it's positive reinforcement to your brain, especially if your only motivation for writing is to connect to other people, because now you've found a very effective shortcut. There's no need to actually write a book in order to connect with other people. You just need common ground to initiate and maintain social interaction. Your brain understands that the arduous burden of writing is not necessary in order to receive what you're actually seeking. And of course, connecting to other people isn't wrong. Not everybody has to be a writer, and being a writer isn't about spending every hour of your day working on a writing project. But just understand how you're conditioning yourself. What are you getting positive reinforcement for? Is it going to make you write more or write less? My personal policy is that if I'm talking about writing, I will only talk about how and what I'm currently writing. I don't talk about what I wish I was writing, and I don't talk about how nice it would be if I was writing. That means that if I want something to talk about, it would require that I actually write. Because how are you helping yourself as a writer if you are so attached to the identity of a writer that doesn't write? Like I said before, skills increase by experience. When you don't write, you don't gain experience. It's fine if it's more important to you to relate to popular memes, but just understand what you're doing to yourself. And don't expect something unreasonable given your choices and the actions you're taking. Now, mistake number 4 is quick and simple, and summarizes everything we've been talking about so far. And that mistake is being afraid to make mistakes, being afraid to look like an amateur. You could end up paralyzed for years because of this fear, but mistakes are the fastest way to learn. How do you think I came up with everything I'm talking about in this video and everything I say on my channel? I'm saying all this now because 8 years ago, I wish somebody had said it to me. Now, if hearing all this has made you want to write right now, my recommendation for beginners is to write everything you fantasize about in relation to your writing project like you'll wake up tomorrow with amnesia. Just write down everything. It doesn't matter how you take the notes, but make sure you get everything out of your head and onto a page. Every character, every event, every fun fact from your world building, even if the characters and places don't have names, describe them. Then tease out the scenes like long or short episodes and try to write them out like excerpts or lost chapters of a future novel. Engage your brain in the process of stringing words and sentences together. and connects with the specificity of writing. As a bonus, hang the scenes you have on a plot arc in Act 1, 2, 3, or 4, and start thinking about how you'll fill in the gaps. Subscribe if you liked the video, and check out the 3 fundamental skills that you'll never write your novel without.